Do you know what? Someone ruined Hamilton for me once, and I'd never forgave them. But they said that Hamilton is basically someone rapping a Wikipedia page, and I go no, and then the first line in it is like 1776, and New York City, and I'm like, oh my god. Why? Why have you destroyed my love of a cultural phenomenon that I could enjoy with other people? Why give me another opinion?
Yeah, there's the famous Hamilton song "Citation Needed" that everyone loves. That's the big giveaway.
It is. Yeah, it is. It is. Personal life. That's the one I go straight for in Wikipedia pages. Like...
yeah, straight to personal. Yeah, that's where the goods are.
Or
that's where we all know.
Oh, mate, when someone has controversies in their Wikipedia page, I love it.
No coincidence that an album released in 2016 is named Masterpiece. They all could have been, in my opinion. Every single album from that year could have been named Masterpiece. Name the year Masterpiece. That's what I say. In music. I mean, outside of that.
Outside of that, an absolute dog's breakfast.
Yeah, sure. Certain people may have called it a masterpiece, but there are people that I wouldn't want to bump into at a dinner party.
And there are people who wouldn't invite me to their dinner party.
Yeah. Probably, I don't think. I might get an invite, but be swiftly ushered out the door once we actually get to chatting.
He just kind of comes out, no chat, sunglasses on. Is it even him? I don't know. And he sings his songs, and then he goes home.
Yeah.
You gotta give chat.
Yeah.
You gotta give chat. You gotta at least acknowledge where you are. You gotta do that. Like, that's what makes a live gig, isn't it? It's never the song. Mm-hmm. Sod the song. I've heard it. I haven't heard you saying that you took a walk down Brixton High Road, though. This is interesting.
That's what you want.
I just want someone to be like, so what's the shop? Like, they could make it up, but they'd be like, what's the shop across the road from it?
It sounds like you like stand-up. I remember going on Vita, Queen of Speed at Alton Towers, where it just goes from like 0 to whatever ridiculous speed in like a very small amount of seconds, and it's mad. And that's how this album does feel like you're just being fired out of a rocket. And
it does. Like, you think you have a reprise, and you're back on it again. And like, how did we get here? But the second time around, I don't notice, and the third time around, I'm like, I'm ready now.
Yeah.
And I had that experience when I went to Alton Towers, where I think we went on a very strange day when hardly anybody was there. And I think I managed to go on Rita like 3 times.
Yeah. Oh, turning up at a theme park and no one's there is the only thing better than turning up at the cinema and no one's there.
Absolutely. It's like this is what it feels like to be the Sultan of Brunei or Macaulay Culkin. Just pure freedom. I feel like I'm in a Spielberg film.
Yeah. My dad said that one of the things he remembers, a kid from my school who was a Buddhist, and his parents, I guess his parents are Buddhist because he was like, my age, so 5, come over for tea one day, and that me and this kid were sitting down, and I was like, do you want to hear a song? I had a ukulele, and he was like, sure. And then I sang him a hymn that I'd heard at the church, and just sang him one of the hymns, and he said, I can do a song for you. I was like, yep. And then he did a chant for me, and we just went back and forth all afternoon, just playing each other's songs from those. Neither of us thinking it was a big deal because we're little kids. He said everyone was just sitting watching us, and it was really nice. But both of us, that's how we got into music, was both from our parents' faiths, I guess.
You know the way you described that? You made it sound like an epic, like, Christian Buddhist rap battle, that you two essentially were going back and forth. Yeah. For the power of theology, bro. And I don't know who won. Acaster. There was no camera there, but that sounds sick. I rate it.
We'd have to catch up with that kid and see because if he's still a Buddhist, he won. Because I'm not a Christian anymore. So therefore, I didn't shake his faith, but he clearly got in my head.
He got your head, mate. Flipping it.
Yeah. Oh, especially the open mic circuit. You have comedians who you're like, there's no way you expect to make a career at this. And you don't care. Yeah. Like, you are just going, this is what I want to do. I want to walk on the stage wearing just a pair of pants and holding, utensils from my kitchen, and then I'm going to just shower myself in them for the whole 10 minutes that I've got and scream at the audience. And at one point, I'm going to ask one of them, if they've seen my father or something really weird. And then and then I'll cry and walk off, and that's my act. I love it. And then they're not trying to make a career out of it. It's like, this is what it should be. I realised the other day that one of the biggest turn-offs for me in terms of like how bands describe themselves is when people say old school, and I'm like, forget it. Why would I don't want to listen to a new artist doing old school. What is the point? Like, people before you did it. Like, I mean, metal is a weird one because metal, I feel, doesn't evolve as quickly as hip hop does. Hip hop is a very quickly evolving genre, especially throughout the last 10 years. The 2010s, it was just like rapidly escalating and changing all the time. When people go, we're old school, it's like, well, nice one, mate. You just completely ruined your chances of people listening to you because everyone else is pushing things forward. I think we've all had it so many times as comedians where you're performing and it's not going great and one person laughs really loud and everyone around them gives them a dirty look like they're the one doing something wrong. What, laughing at the comedian?
I had a fight with a septuagenarian at Book of Mormon. I was sitting next to this 70-year-old lady. She's probably 80. I don't know. It was a Wednesday. I was with Celia Pacquola watching Book of Mormon, and I have a very loud laugh, which you might have already heard on this podcast. I don't push it, but if I enjoy something, you'll know about it, right? Yeah. So, very funny. I'm laughing a lot. And we're on the exit row and the door keeps opening. And every time the door opens, the lady next to me, the old lady, looks to the door. And I'm like, oh, I wonder if she's waiting for someone. Blah, blah, blah. And then the door doesn't open a couple of times. And I realise, oh, she's staring at me every time I laugh.
Right.
And I'm getting sick of it and sick of it. And then I just lean over to her. And because I'm Australian, she would never have had this said to her before. But I just said it to her straight. And I said, excuse me, can you please stop staring at me? It's making me very uncomfortable. And she said, will you keep laughing? And I said, well, it's a comedy. What else would you like me to do? And then she shut up. And then in the interval, she swapped with a friend.
Yeah. Awful. I mean, well, you keep laughing. What? It's Book of Mormon. Not a documentary.
She's gotten me more into prog rock, which I didn't think was a phrase that would ever come out of my mouth. I guess she's really into Yes, and then got me, and I was like, oh, they're actually pretty awesome. And I was like, am I like a nerd from my high school now for saying that I like Yes? I mean, you know, she doesn't care about such things, but I was just kind of like, you know, the cross section of people who would talk about prog rock and like the people who would talk about like Dungeons and Dragons and stuff is like a thick Venn diagram over that thing. So
especially in school, like the kids who are teenagers and in school are saying that they like Yes. It's like, no, you're too much like, you can't be this much like your dad already.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, like, no, it's like your dad likes Yes, and you really wish your dad liked you as much as he likes Yes. And so
when I said I'd never listened to Brazilian music before, I wasn't entirely telling the truth. What I meant is I don't think I've listened to Brazilian music by anyone that you would have heard of. Yes. Because I travelled with like a band playing Brazilian music.
What? Wait, what? How is that only coming up now? How long have we been chatting for?
Because they weren't
about a Brazilian music album, and you've said you'd never heard it, and you travelled
because they weren't Brazilian. They weren't Brazilian. They just loved Brazilian music.
That's still relevant, Sophie.
I'm sorry. I was just like, I can't bring it.
It's still one of the most relevant things you could have brought up about this album is that you once travelled with a band playing Brazilian music.
I travelled with a band playing Brazilian.
Were you in the band?
Briefly.
What the hell? What was this band called?
Okay, so it had different...
I've got so many questions about this. Right, go on.
Okay, so they had different names at different times. Yeah. It was like part of a label, like this very small label called Moot Moot Records in France. And then the band at one point was called Brazil Brothers.
Yeah.
So Brazil Brothers.
Great.
Playing Brazilian music. And it was essentially like a group of people, two musicians from Lyon and like the rest were from Paris.
Yeah.
And we went from like the south of France into Bulgaria busking, playing Brazilian music. Why? This isn't relevant.
What are you talking about? It's not relevant.
Sorry.
Even if you were just in a band who played like folk music from Switzerland, it would be relevant when you're on a music podcast to bring that up. Let alone we're currently talking about a Brazilian music album, and you travelled around Europe playing Brazilian music in a band called Brazil Brothers.
Yeah, that is the
I can't see how you don't think that's relevant in any way. Maybe I'm the mad one here.